wrong. Really excited to dive into this one. Even within this very small part, I can tell that this is going to be a really heartbreaking book, but we can't win them all. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria, and today's video is just going to be a reading vlog, and quite honestly I don't know what the theme of this reading vlog is going to be. I think it is just going to be a mood read with me for a week because I have been feeling a little bit slumpy over the last kind of couple of weeks, and I do think I'm slowly getting out of that, and I don't really want to kind of force myself to read something if I'm not in the mood for it. So I probably will just kind of be mood reading over the week and trying to pick anything from my TBR that I have for this month and reading from those. But if I really don't feel any of them at any one point, I may end up picking from some of the rest of my TBR. But to be fair, there are quite a few on my TBR that I think I will be interested in, so I probably will be able to pick from those. But let's just go and have a look at what I actually have on my TBR this month. Okay, so this is kind of where I keep my TBR for the month. When I've picked it from my TBR jar, I usually put them all in this little basket to read for the month. Obviously I can read more, kind of switch these out as the month goes on if I don't really feel like reading one of them at any one time, but usually I do try and stick to this list as much as possible. So there's a couple of books in here that I'm pretty interested in picking up soon. First one being this one, so Welcome to the Hyunam Bookshop. I'm always not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, by Hwang Bo Reum, and I believe this is translated from Korean, and it just sounds like it's going to be a really cozy read. It's about this character who has basically hit a roadblock within their life. They want to change everything up and essentially run away and open this bookshop, and I mean, haven't we all been there? Isn't that the dream? But I think it really is just a character study following that main character and then a few patrons within the bookshop who maybe are feeling the same way and end up coming together and kind of working through their issues, I suppose. So I am able to get the audiobook for this one on Everand, so I think I will pick this one up because it's a pretty relatively short read. It sounds like it's going to be really cozy, something a bit different than I'm used to. I'm not really a huge literary fiction reader, but I'm trying to jump out of my normal comfort zone and read something that's a bit different. So this one does definitely intrigue me, so I think this will probably be the first one that I pick up. And then the two other ones that I'm interested in are Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara. This is just obviously following Psyche and Eros. It's Greek mythology. A lot of this is to do with kind of a love story, kind of fated loves that goes wrong, and that's all I really know about it. I don't know the kind of mythology behind this one, but it definitely just sounds like it's something that I could enjoy. It's not quite fantasy, but it's kind of within that fantasy realm, so I may pick this up alongside that one, or I may pick up The Last Namsara by Kristen Cicerelli, because this is one that's been on my TBR for a little while, and after reading Crimson Moth and The Rebel Witch, I know I really love her writing, and I have a feeling this one could appeal to me even more than that geology because of what it's about. A lot of it is to do with this young girl who basically is trying to atone for a mistake when she was younger that almost destroyed her city. She's a dragon slayer, but no matter how many dragons she slays, she's still seen as wicked, and she's offered this bargain by the king to kind of scrape her plate clean by killing one of the most dangerous dragons known within this land, and the only person standing in her way is a slave boy, which I'm guessing could be the love interest in this one. So again, just really intrigued by this one. I know I really love her writing, so this could potentially be another one that I pick up this week, but I'm going to see how it goes. I'll probably start with the Hyunam Bookshop, see how I'm getting on with that and whether I just want to kind of keep it to one book reading. Usually I do like to read 2 books at a time, but just with the way I've been feeling, I'll maybe just stick with one for now, see how I get on, and then potentially one of these two may be the ones that I pick up this week. I did also download Wildside by Elsie Silver onto my Kindle because it came out yesterday, and I'm trying to keep up to date on all of my series, and that's the last book that's out in that series that, you know, currently. So if I read that, I will be up to date and stay up to date in that series, so tempted to keep that as maybe my nighttime read just because it is a bit of a fluffy romance. It's an easier read just before going to bed, so potentially I may include that in this video as well. So yeah, I'm going to start with this one, see how I get on, see if I want to add any other reads to the mix while I'm reading this one, but I don't think this will take me too long to get through. As I say, it is pretty short, and I do have the audiobook with Everand as well, so really excited to jump into this one, see how I feel about it, and as I say, just jump out of my comfort zone a little bit and read something a little bit different than I'm used to. But yeah, excited to jump in, so I'll probably read a little bit of this and jump in as soon as I have an update. lovelies. So I've just been sitting reading for about an hour and I've managed to get around 27% through this one, and it's a little different than I thought it would be. I thought it would just kind of be a slice of life following a character's story, understanding how they got to where they are, and we are kind of following quite a few characters in here. Obviously we're following the bookshop owner and kind of her day-to-day life, and it is very slice of life, but I think what's different about it is it doesn't seem to be a book with a start, middle and an end. It's much more episodic than that, so we're kind of going chapter to chapter, reading about different scenarios that happen within the bookshop, and along the way we are learning about obviously the bookshop owner, the barista who ends up working there, and a few of the customers that maybe come in and are regulars, their coffee bean distributor and things like that. And it kind of feels like each chapter is almost concentrating on a certain subject, so whether that be what makes you happy or societal pressures or things that we should be doing as humans, and just all those different things, and kind of almost having a narrative around that, having one of the characters maybe grappling with that within their mind. And there's always kind of a message within each chapter, or at least that's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like they're writing a story but almost trying to give self-help. It almost feels like a self-help book within a fictional setting, if that makes any sense. So some of it is feeling a little bit preachy, some of it is feeling a little bit on the nose. I would like it to be a bit more nuanced when I'm reading books like this. So I like there to be a story, I like there to be a narrative, and the messages are kind of an undercurrent, and it's not so in your face when they're trying to give you the messaging or when they're trying to convey a certain message, if that makes sense. So rather than just being a statement, I like it to be a bit more nuanced within the narrative, and that's not really what we get here. It is quite slow paced, it is very character driven, and I kind of expected that going in, but it is incredibly slow paced and it doesn't really feel like it has a direction when it comes to the story. But I am only 27% in, so that may change as the book goes on. But I will say, I don't know that if I didn't have the audiobook for this one, if it's one that would have really caught my attention. I am enjoying the audiobook narration, I'm enjoying kind of reading along while I'm listening to it, but I'm not sure it would have kept my attention, especially with the way I'm feeling at the minute, because it is an incredibly slow paced book. So I think this really requires a very patient reader and would definitely be more suited to people who do enjoy a bit more literary fiction and books that are very much more about the vibes rather than the plot, from this 27% anyway. So I do like that it's kind of so far been definitely a love letter to bookshops and to readers and reading and almost kind of the whole reading community. So even there are mentions about Instagram and how there's, you know, a reading community on there, and obviously as an avid Bookstagrammer I did enjoy that addition in there. You may hear some grunts, Frank is here with me. But yeah, I think I'm not enjoying it, but it's definitely not one that's gripping my attention straight away. I do think it will probably be one of those books that you think about after you've read it, and there have been a few quotes in here that I've really liked and a few insights that I've really liked, but I do think it's just a bit on the nose in terms of the messaging that it's trying to deliver. But yeah, as I say, 27% in, it's reading pretty quickly. I'll probably get another 5 to 10% read before I'm making dinner, and it's likely I'll be able to finish this tomorrow because, as I said, it's a pretty quick read. So yeah, I'll probably just sit here for another half an hour or so, read a bit more, and then continue listening while I'm making dinner. But yeah, not off to a great start. As I say, I definitely don't think this is going to be a 5-star or anything. At the minute it's sitting at around a 3 to 3.5, and that sounds pretty harsh. It's not that I'm not enjoying it, as I say, it's just probably a me problem in terms of I don't know if this is the book for me, rather than it being a book problem. I do think there's definitely a very distinct audience for this book, and I'm just not sure if it's me. But as I say, I'm only a third of the way through. Let's see what we get with the rest of the book and see if it changes at all. It may end up surprising me as I read on. I did get a book delivery this afternoon as well after I finished filming the first clip, and it's All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir, and this is one that I've had on my TBR for a really long time. I love Sabaa Tahir's An Ember in the Ashes. You've probably heard me talk about it before, so I've been really intrigued by this book to pick it up and see what I think about it. This is obviously a lot more of a literary fiction as well, following, I believe, immigrants that moved to the US from Pakistan, and again I do think it's a bit of a character study, a bit of a story following their lives, their hardships, the complication in the relationships, and I just heard some really amazing things about it, so tempted to pick this one up. It was on my TBR for February and I didn't get to it, so that could be a good excuse to get this on the TBR for March, but we'll see how I get on with this one before I decide what I'm going to be picking up next. But yeah, just thought I'd share that with you, and as I say, tempted to maybe pick this up this week as it is one that I've been highly anticipating. Lovelies, it's been a crazy busy week, so I didn't get a chance to jump on and update you yesterday, but I have now finished the I keep pronouncing this wrong, the Hinam Dung Bookshop by Huang Bo Riem, and I didn't love this one. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't what I was expecting from this. So I think when I was kind of discussing this before, it had been kind of pitched as a cozy read, very comforting, and my expectation was to kind of follow this story around these characters maybe going through a healing journey or maybe a bit of self-discovery, something like that. And while I do think we technically got that in here, it just wasn't in kind of style or way that I particularly enjoyed. So I think I mentioned before that a lot of the chapters in here are pretty episodic, so we are following the characters, but each chapter is almost set up as a scenario that is basically there just as a mechanism to give us a life lesson, so to make us think about what makes us happy, what makes us content, how we can move on from past transgressions and trauma and things like that. And it just felt a little bit clinical to me. It didn't feel like it was kind of naturally woven within the story. It almost felt like a self-help book kind of parading as a fiction book, and again I think it's just a case of it's not something that I personally enjoyed in terms of the style of the way the story was told. I just felt like the conversations between the characters never felt natural. It always felt like it was almost, and I know it's a book so this might sound a little bit strange, but it sounded a little bit scripted. You know, I didn't feel like anyone would naturally talk to each other in this way, so it just meant I couldn't connect with the characters, I couldn't connect with their stories, and inevitably it just meant that I was pretty bored for most of this read. Now, I do think it was comforting at times. I loved the setting of the bookshop, I loved kind of the story around that, so again it was pretty disappointing just the way in which the characters were interacting and the way that the story was told, because I do think that that would have been the perfect setting and kind of the perfect setup, even though nothing happened. You know, I wasn't expecting a lot of plot from this because I knew it would be kind of a no plot all vibe story, but just the way that the characters were interacting and the way that their stories were told just didn't resonate with me at all. So yeah, I ended up rating this one 3 stars, but again I think it's not because it's a bad book, it just wasn't written in a way that I personally enjoyed. So take from that what you will. If you think it's something that you may enjoy, definitely still pick this up. I think if I didn't have the audio, I'm not sure I would have stayed engaged with this one just because it was so clinical in its storytelling. So yeah, a little bit disappointing with that one, but glad I tried it, glad I gave it a go, and as I say, it could be a 5-star for other people that like this style of writing, but just unfortunately it wasn't for me. And in a true mood reading fashion, I think the next book I'm going to pick up is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir, because as I say, I did get it the other day and it's just been staring at me since I got it. So this one is following 2 immigrants, I believe, who moved from Lahore in Pakistan to the US, and I think it's following their story as well as maybe their children's story. And it basically just says, in Lahore, Pakistan then, Misbah is a dreamer and a storyteller, newly married to Tawfiq in an arranged match. After their young life is shaken by tragedy, they come to the US to open a motel, hoping for a new start. Juniper in California now. Growing up as outcasts in their small desert town, Saladin and Noor understand each other better than anyone, until the fight, which destroys their bond and the swift fury of a star exploding. Now Sal scrambles to run the family motel as his mother Misbah's health fails, and his father isn't coping. Noor meanwhile walks a harrowing tightrope, working at her wrathful uncle's store while keeping her college application secret so she can escape him forever. When Sal's attempts to save the motel spiral out of control, he and Noor must ask themselves what friendship is worth and what it takes to defeat the monsters in their past and the ones in their midst. So this one I think is going to be pretty heavy. I've heard there are some pretty heavy topics in here. There's quite a lot of trigger warnings in here for things like alcoholism, physical abuse and things like that. So I don't think this is going to be a light read, but I do think it's going to be a beautiful read at the same time in terms of the way that Sabaa Tahir writes and her writing style, and I can just imagine her characterizations are going to be pretty deep in here, and I've just been really excited to read this because, as I say, she's one of my favourite authors, but this is something slightly different than what she's written in the past and what I've read from her in the past. So really excited to dive into this one with a little bit of apprehension just because of the topics that are going to be discussed, but I just feel like I'm going to love this book, so trying not to put too high of expectations on this one, but I've read the first page and a half and already I'm hooked. I really want to see where the story goes. So yeah, this is the next one I'm going to pick up, so kind of turning into a little bit of a literary fiction week for me, but this is definitely one that's been on my radar for a really long time, so definitely excited to see where this one goes and to see how much I enjoy this one. lovely. So just jumping on to give a very quick update on my progress with All My Rage. So I haven't read too much. I'm only on page 47, so that's chapter 8, but we have kind of had a bit of the setup of the story. So as I say, we're kind of following this family from moving from Pakistan in Lahore to Juniper in California, and the way that the story is kind of being told is we're almost getting flashbacks to Misbah, who is the mother within this story, when she was young and kind of meeting her husband and having this arranged marriage. So we haven't really got too far into that yet, but what we have had is kind of present day, where they are in their lives now. We're following her son and his friend and kind of the tumultuous relationship between those two, and I've already started tabbing, so I've tabbed a few things. I just really love the way that Sabaa Tahir writes and kind of her descriptions of things, and even within this very small part I can tell that this is going to be a really heartbreaking book, but so far we're still very much within the setup of this one. But I do think that this is going to be a pretty easy, in terms of time, read, because firstly just look how floppy this is, but also the font in here is actually pretty big and the margins are pretty big as well. So I don't think it's going to take me too long. If I can just get a couple of hours to just sit down and really read through this, I don't think it'll take me too long to get through. So today is Saturday. I'm going to try and go down now to sit and just read for a few hours and try and get a good bit more into this, because I'm kind of in part 2 of the story, and the way that the last bit left off, I really want to see what happens next. But so far, really enjoying this. This is definitely more my style and my vibe when it comes to storytelling and when it comes to literary fiction. This is definitely more the kind of style that I'm used to and a style that I enjoy. So yeah, so far so good. As I say, very early days. I'm only around 15% into this or something like that, so very early to judge just yet, but loving the writing, already connecting with the characters, already feeling for them. So a little bit scared about how the story's going to go just with some of the setup that's been done so far, but yeah, so far it's definitely not disappointing. So yeah, probably just going to get into some comfy clothes now and get cozy to try and read a bit more of this. So probably come back when I'm around maybe 50 to 60% to give you an update on how this one's going. As promised, I'm jumping on at around 60% of this one just to give you a bit of an update, and still really enjoying this. Enjoying is probably the wrong word considering the context of some of the stuff that's happening in here and is about to happen, I'm guessing, in this story. But I am loving the storytelling. I am feeling really connected to the characters and the plot and kind of the way that it's being told. I think I said before that we're getting kind of flashbacks to Misbah's life, who is the kind of mother figure within this, how they came from Lahore in Pakistan to be in California. And then obviously a lot of the story is based on the children and kind of their story growing up in California, and I'm really loving that aspect of it, kind of that dual POV but also kind of dual timeline as well. I think so far for me what I've really loved about this is that the storytelling has been quite quiet, and what I mean by that is there are quite a lot of really difficult themes that are talked about in here, but it's not kind of being thrown in your face, it's not being too preachy, it's very nuanced, it's very interwoven within the narrative, and even though there's quite a lot of kind of uncomfortable and disparaging scenes within here, it's really realistic. The way that it's being portrayed is extremely realistic. As much as we would hope that these things don't happen, they most certainly do, and just being able to kind of feel that experience and understand how that impacts certain people and being able to just feel that in such a realistic way is really masterfully done within this book. And I do think that we're getting to the point in the book now where things are going to really start happening and things will maybe be a little bit more open. And I think the way that this book has been written has been as a mechanism to kind of get your own rage kind of building from the start. You're really feeling what these characters are feeling from the start of the book. As I said, the very start, it feels quite slow, it doesn't feel like there's really anything happening, and even up until this point, if you're reading it without kind of taking that nuance and the messaging in the undercurrent of it, there's not a lot happening when it comes to the actual plot. But in terms of the characters' emotions, in terms of what they're going through, and in terms of where I think this book is about to go, I am experiencing that rage with the characters. I'm experiencing everything that they are as well, and I think this was something with Sabbath Here's writing that I found with An Ember in the Ashes. I really just felt connected so much to the characters from very early on. You know, it didn't take me very long to feel connected to them, and I'm getting the same thing with this, even though it's a completely different genre, completely different subject matter. The way that she writes her characters is just so real that I just believe that they are real people. You know, I can believe that these people really live, really have these experiences, and just makes my reading experience a million times better. And I don't know if I'm ready for this last bit of this book. I do think it's going to get pretty harrowing from here on in. There's already been quite a lot of themes explored within this, but there's a particular storyline within this that I think is about to get unveiled, and I think it's going to be a pretty difficult read, and I think this is the part of the book that probably will break me a little bit, especially because at this point I absolutely love these characters. They are quite young within this. I think they're supposed to be maybe like 17, 18, something like that, and I just feel so protective of them as well, just from what we've read so far. So I don't think this next bit's going to be an easy read at all, but in terms of the way that the story is written and the way that the story is being told, from that aspect I can say I am really loving this book. So probably pop in again once I've finished this one and just give you kind of an overall view of the book, what I felt about it, whether I recommend it. And I can probably tell you now I probably will recommend this, but interested to see how this unfolds and kind of how the story wraps up at the end. I'm not expecting this to be a happy ending, but I'll be interested to see how this does end and just to see what my final thoughts and feelings are on this one. So hopefully going to be able to read a bit more this evening and potentially finish this. I think I've got around 150 pages left, so I may be able to fit that in this evening, I'll see. But as I say, once I finish this one and once I kind of have my final thoughts and feelings, I'll jump on and give you an update. Hi lovelies, so I'm back because I have now finished On My Rage by Sabbath Here, and I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this book. I just thought it was, I think as I said, just the writing style, the characters, the plot, everything just really worked for me. Now, I think from the point where we last left off, there was kind of things that were about to kick off, and they certainly did. I think there was obviously an undercurrent of a storyline that was going on that we were kind of aware of throughout the book, but we kind of got it on page after that, and it was pretty tough to read. It was pretty tough to read because, as I say, we really love these characters at this point, and it's just a subject matter that's difficult to read. So definitely just check out some trigger warnings for this one, especially when it comes to kind of physical abuse and things like that, because there were quite a few scenes in here that did depict that on page. So if that's something that you're affected by, definitely just check out the trigger warnings for this one and be careful when approaching it. So yeah, after that there were quite a few harrowing scenes, and there was a bit of a twist almost within the narrative that I didn't see coming. It kind of came from left field. I mean, the storyline was kind of going on throughout the book, but what kind of happened at the end in terms of something that put another wedge between the characters and how they approached that and how they would face that, it was honestly completely unexpected for me. And I mean, Sabbath Here really likes to put her characters through it. If you've read An Ember in the Ashes, you know that she does, and she definitely puts her characters through it in this story. But I think the difference is that unfortunately this isn't fantasy, this is definitely a reality for a lot of people, and that's what made it even more heartbreaking and even more impactful as well. And I really loved the way she dealt with it and how she explored it, but I just think that there was so much going on in this book that I wish it was a little bit longer. I wish there was a few things that were maybe delved into a little bit more and we spent a bit more time with some of them, because they're all such important topics and all such interesting topics as well, that I feel like some of them were maybe skimmed over or just didn't get the page time that they probably deserved. So that's my only critique about this one, and I don't know if that's really a critique, just that I wanted it to be longer. I wanted to be spending more time in this book, more time with these characters. I wanted a few things to be drawn out a little bit more, so ended up rating this one a 4 to 4.5. So still a really good rating, but as I say, I just think there was a few things in here I would have liked to have been delved into a little bit more and kind of spent a little bit more time with than we did. But overall, really enjoyed this. I think it was a great story about kind of generational trauma, dealing with grief, dealing with personal trauma, working out how to do the right thing for the people around you and the people that you love, but not always getting it right, and then how you deal with that. And I just think the way that she tackled some of the subject matter in here was, yeah, just really beautifully done. Really had me invested in the characters, really had me invested in their story. I love the sprinkles of culture that were thrown in there as well. It really immersed me within the characters' worlds, and really just how it was really starkly different from where they came from to where they were. I just loved that contrast and just finding out more about their culture. So yeah, really enjoyed this. I think if you like anything that is a character study, if you are a big literary fiction reader, this is definitely one to put on your radar. The writing style is amazing. It has a very engaging plot, really lovable characters you want to root for, you really want them to do well, and yeah, I think other than me wanting it to be a little bit longer and a little bit drawn out in places, I honestly have no critiques about this book. So I think that's everything for this week. It took me a little bit longer to finish All My Rage than I had hoped, and I have been reading another book alongside these, but I didn't include it in this vlog because it is just ending a series. So I have been reading Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. Nearly finished with that. Got a few chapters to read still, probably about 15% left of that to read, so I didn't end up vlogging it. It was just one I was reading just for myself, basically. So that's why it took me a little bit longer to get through these than I had hoped. So I'm going to finish the vlog here and kind of keep it as a literary fiction themed video for this week. But let me know if you have any literary fiction faves, if there's any authors you think I should be checking out. If you've read All My Rage and you know of other stories that are like that, definitely let me know, because I really loved that story and really loved her writing. So if you have any authors that you think I would be interested in because of that, definitely let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I think this video has definitely just taught me that it's great to get out of your comfort zone every now and again, but just to be mindful that not every book that sounds like it will be for you will be, because I am still quite disappointed with this one that it wasn't as kind of a cozy and comforting read as I had hoped, but we can't win them all. If you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I post 2 videos per week and it's videos like this, so reading vlogs, TBR jars, book recommendation videos, book calls, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!